Hello and welcome to today's webinar, Engagement, Values and Job Fit, the Bottom Line Impact. This is the 8th webinar in our Lunchtime Light Bulb series, just 2 to go, and we're so pleased to have you join us. Welcome to those of you who are newcomers, and of course welcome back to those who have joined us before. For those of you who don't know me, although surely you do by now, my name is Sarah Sibel, and as usual I'm joined today by Michael Meir, Cal Director and Lecturer. Hello, Michael.
Hello, Sarah. Hello, everybody. Nice to have the opportunity to be with you.
Now, just before we get started, a few very quick housekeeping items. This webinar will run for approximately 30 or 40 minutes, depending on your questions towards the end. The second half of the webinar will be open to your questions, so if at any time during Michael's presentation you have something that you would like to ask him, just jot it down in your questions or chat box there, and I will read them out and have Michael answer them for everybody to hear. And lastly, this webinar will be available for you to keep and watch time and time again. So once we're done here, I will email you the link to our very own Cal YouTube channel, as well as the PowerPoint presentations. So here are some stats. The State of the Global Workplace Gallup 2010 found that 19% of Australian workers are engaged, 61% are not engaged, and 20% are actively disengaged. Did you know that workers in disengaging workplaces are more than twice as likely to report their organisation is letting go of people compared to those in engaging workplaces? While workers in engaging workplaces are more than twice as likely to report that their organisation is hiring new staff as are workers in disengaging workplaces. Job creation may partially be a result of the general economic climate, but it is also very likely a function of the business's own success, driven by their workplace environment, performance and strong leadership. Gallup research has found that how leaders manage employees can significantly influence engagement and or disengagement in the workplace, which in turn influences a company's bottom line and workers' health and well-being. This analysis suggests the most progressive organisations are those that are engaging their employees, thereby producing more and higher quality work. These same organisations also appear to be moving the job market in a positive direction. Workplaces that disengage employees have lower productivity and are less likely to be hiring and more likely to be laying off workers. For those who wonder what they can do during a downturn economy to help their organisation take an active role in improving the job market, one answer might be for them to engage the people they work with. Every manager can play a role in engaging workers by clarifying expectations, getting employees what they need to do their work, giving workers recognition when they do good work, encouraging employee development, helping workers connect to the broader purpose of the organisation, and frequently measuring and discussing progress. The managers and departments within organisations that take these actions are more likely to produce high quality work and help their organisations grow and improve the well-being of their workforce. One question many business executives have pondered is whether the effect of employee engagement on business outcomes differs in tough economic times, either by becoming less or more important. Well, the Gallup research conducted in 2012, which examined, here we go Michael, almost 50,000 businesses or work units, and included about 1.4 million employees in 192 organisations across 49 industries and in 34 countries, so a pretty strong representative of the world's workforce there, makes clear that employee engagement strongly relates to key organisational outcomes in any economic climate. This research shows that even during difficult economic times, employee engagement is an important competitive differentiator for organisations. More specifically, the Gallup research found that business or work units that score in the top half of their organisation in employee engagement have nearly doubled the odds of success based on a composite of financial, customer, retention, safety, quality, shrinkage and absenteeism metrics when compared with those in the bottom half. Those in the 99th percentile have 4 times the success rate compared with those in the first percentile. Employee engagement affects 9 performance outcomes. Compared with the bottom quartile units, top quartile units have 37% lower absenteeism, 25% lower turnover in high turnover organisations, 65% lower turnover in low turnover organisations, 28% less shrinkage, 48% fewer safety incidents, 41% fewer patient safety incidents, 41% fewer quality incidents, 10% higher productivity, and 22% higher profitability. We all know that economic conditions are a bit uncertain at the moment, so I thought I'd do a bit of research for any useful hints from around the time of the GFC so that we could apply them now. I found a great article by Erin White in the Wall Street Journal of November 2008 titled How to Motivate Your Workers in Tough Times. Erin wrote, "During tough economic times, you're doing more with less. So you've got to understand each employee individually. If you've just lost a couple of people from a work team due to layoffs, you might have to reposition people a bit. It's very difficult to do that unless you're in tune with what the strengths are of the people in your team." She was reporting on an interview she had with Rod Wagner, who co-wrote The Elements of Great Management, published by Gallup Press. Wagner said, Michael, would you like to play the part of Wagner?
Oh, I could play the part of Wagner.
No, sure.
Hello, I'm Wagner. Who are you? Oh, you're Erin White.
Yes.
Erin, lovely to meet you.
Lovely to meet you, Rod.
Where were we? Oh, we were there. Wagner said, look, often overlooked is just clarifying expectations, setting expectations. Only a little over half the people in the workforce that we've surveyed over the years clearly knew what was expected of them in the job. It's a bit frightening, that, isn't it? Wonder what the other half were doing. That becomes more important in an economic crisis when it could manage with when you've got to manage with fewer people. So communication and ongoing expectation setting based on how the roles change for people. Now that's important.
He went on.
Hello. Also, I have to do this seriously.
Yes.
Yes, okay. Managers should be helping people get to know their part of the future. So they're not just thinking about the economic crisis and being fatalistic, but it also might present some opportunity, that there isn't necessarily something that the situation isn't going to last forever.
White asked him, what are the biggest mistakes managers make during tough times that hurt engagement?
When you become increasingly hard grinding, try to get more out of people with less, and if you do it in a way that's where you're criticising people, now look, frankly, that's going to work against you. It'll tighten people up and stress them out. The great managers know how important it is to build relationships all the time and have fun at work. Managers feel pressure too. When you're under pressure, the instinct is to tighten up and to think you have to run it militaristically, but frankly, you don't.
White then asked, what other mistakes do managers tend to make now?
Sometimes they forget to give recognition. We'll see the importance of that later on when we do the job satisfaction score. That wasn't Wagner speaking, that was me speaking. When times are tough, I'm Wagner speaking again now. When times are tough, it's easy to think about correcting weaknesses rather than to think about recognising people when they're still doing great work. I would argue recognition is even more important in times like this. They're going to hear more negatives just naturally through the course of the day. And if you can't get recognition at work, where else are you going to get it? Plus, recognition is cheap. Now, this is an important part. Recognition doesn't cost anything, yet it's a basic human need, and a little bit of it goes a very long way. It helps motivate people, and it helps them to do productive things.
Excellent, thank you, Michael. There, a bit of a role play and a lot of information for a Friday afternoon. We are going to run a quick poll now, so you will see on your screen very soon the question, what percentage of your workforce do you think are disengaged? The options there, 20%, 15 to 20, 10 to 15, 5 to 10, or 0 to 5%. So we'll just wait for everybody to pop in their answers there. So far we have quite a few people saying 20 or more. And quite a few people saying 0 to 5, which is terrific news, Michael.
That's great.
All right, I think all the votes are in. So we actually have 25% are saying 20 or more, and 75% are now saying 0 to 5. That's great, Michael.
We must have a great set of people listening to us because those figures are atypical. But even still, 25% of people saying that they've got 25% of their staff disengaged really is a horrid stat.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so we have, as usual, a lot to get through today, Michael. So how about you tell us what we're going to run through today?
Okay. Now, we start with employee engagement in the bottom line. Then we'll have a look at recruiting in values and engagement. And two things we'll look at there is job fit and engagement, and secondly, values and VABES. The third thing we'll look at today is job satisfaction and staff turnover. We'll also do a spreadsheet calculating your job satisfaction score. We'll have a look at engagement strategies, and of course, we'll answer your questions.
So much information, so little time. Michael, perhaps you can start by telling us, what is employee engagement?
Sarah, employee engagement is the extent to which an individual is committed to their organisation and its products or services and its customers. It's their level of pride and job ownership. It's their level of discretionary effort in terms of time and energy. It ranges from intense caring of the highly engaged right through to the active dysfunction of the highly disengaged.
Okay, but why is it important and how is it used?
Okay. Now, Bain & Co., who are international management advisors, say that organisations can use employee engagement to identify and build on the strengths and talents of their workforce to gain a competitive edge, develop more productive and satisfied, motivated employees by installing a sense of purpose and autonomy, as well as strong affiliation with the company and its offerings. Create an emotionally safe environment with the right tools to perform work for fair compensation. Understand what investments will have to be made or give the greatest impact on employee engagement. Cultivate more satisfied and loyal customers by improving employee engagement and overall performance. And finally, an increase in workforce retention, including reduced costs of turnover and training. Now we can see in this diagram from Bain & Co. that, look, it's only just over 40% of people actually conduct employee engagement surveys, but that 40% suggests that they've got 70% satisfaction rate with the work and results that come out of it. Now my comment is that, look, nobody is compelled to measure the levels of engagement of their staff, but then again, survival is not compulsory.
It's that important to you, isn't it, Michael?
Oh, it is, Miss Sarah. It really is. Now, let's have a look at some facts to back that up, shall we?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. 2010, Towers Watson, they provided very clear evidence which found that net profit is higher for companies with higher levels of employee engagement and high performance support. You can see in there, even in those organisations with low performance support, the engaged performed 3.3 times better, and those with high support, it was more than 4% better. Towers Watson followed that up in 2011. And again, this graph taken from that study shows the impact that engagement can have on performance. Now that study was confirmed again later in 2011 in a case study entitled Towers Watson and Rio Tinto. Case study providing rock-solid link between employee engagement and business performance. This study found that employees are engaged in their work when they're recognised as individuals, their performance is rewarded, and their other work-related needs are met.
I'm starting to see some big payoff here, Michael.
Once again, Sarah, you're right on the money and perfectly correct. Look, job performance improves well when we're coached, when there's sales ability. You can see it in sales ability improves. Teamwork increases. Look, and that's, when we get in there, we get an effect of 2.2 times. When we look at job retention, engaged employees are 33% less likely to leave their organisation within a year. Now, we've seen in previous webinars the economic savings to be gained through job retention. The graph on your screen clearly shows the payoff of high engagement levels on reducing the risk of staff turnover and its associated costs.
Wow, there's no doubt with a graph like that, is there, Michael?
No.
But what about the role of managers and supervisors? I expect they would have a significant impact on engagement, and I imagine their level of engagement is critical to overall employee engagement. Would this be true?
Yes, Sarah, again, and let's go to have a look at the Towers-Watson research to confirm this. And it confirms that managers have a very significant impact on engagement. Now, this is because managers are important in communicating and personifying the values of an organisation. When employees feel that their values are similar to their managers, well, then their level of job satisfaction and organisational commitment is higher. This next graph shows the critical importance of line managers or line manager engagement levels. As you can see, the more engaged the managers are, the more likely their teams or direct reports will likewise be engaged. A firm called Blessington White, who are located in Princeton in the US, have been researching employee engagement for more than a decade, suggests that aligning an employee's values, goals and aspirations with those of the organisation is the best method for achieving sustainable employee engagement that's required for an organisation to thrive. Their engagement model focuses on the individual's contribution to the organisation's success and their personal satisfaction in their roles. Their research says, or suggests, that full engagement represents an alignment of maximum job satisfaction. So employees feel or say, I like my work and do it well, with maximum contribution, where employees proactively help in achieving the goals of their organisation. Blessington White say that engaged employees are not just committed. They're not just passionate or proud. Instead of, or perhaps as well, or more importantly, they have line of sight on their own future and on the organisation's missions and goals. They are enthused and in gear, using their talents and discretionary effort to make a difference in their employer's quest for sustainable business performance. Sarah, I like to call it turned up, tuned in, turned on. Now, their study suggests that there are 5 categories of engagement. There's high, 37%, almost 27%, neutrals 15%, disengaged 18%, disengaged 10%, and the very disengaged 8%. That roughly confirms the 20-odd% we saw earlier in the Towers-Watson research, but the 64% who are engaged would be certainly being held back by the 18% who didn't want to be there. Just think of the 18% of your payroll on the moment and where it's doing very little. It's very easy to see the bottom line impact of that.
That 18% found in this year's research is pretty close to the 20% from the Gallup survey that I spoke of earlier. Michael, what else can you tell us about employee engagement?
Sarah, look, engagement's not just a factory floor issue. It can be spread throughout an organisation. Just take a look at this table to see what I mean. It's a bit frightening. If we look down there, that a combined 47% of management, that's taken from across the board, executives, directors, team leaders, managers, supervisors, are disengaged. That's a massive number. Now, this next table provides a very sharp contrast between the engaged and the disengaged when it comes to reasons to stay in the job. Have a look at the figures for my career and its opportunities. I have no desire for change. My finances, the economy. Pretty much the disengaged are out of the rain. It's very hard to build a thriving organisation on that sort of culture. Now, this brings us to our next topic,
which is recruiting in values and engagement. Can you walk us through this, Michael?
I'd love to, Sarah. Thank you for the opportunity to do so. Well, Sarah, a job and an organisation that fits with an individual's work values is far more attractive and therefore has more highly capable employees, often self-selecting to work there. That is, those high on can-do often have a choice between jobs and organisations. From an organisation's perspective, the levels of motivation, satisfaction and ultimately retention are likely to be higher the better aligned an individual's work values are with those of the job and the organisation. Understanding the fit helps to identify those employees who will reach their potential by employing or applying their full capability to the job role and going beyond the requirements, thereby helping the organisation to succeed. The will do. Now, let's have a look at the value of assessing values. This was a study done by SHL in 2012. Now, the SHL Global Assessment Trends report, it says that the majority, that's 56% of respondents indicated that engagement and retention were the top priorities for 2012. SHL is the global partner for the Corporate Executive Development Board, a global HR maker and shaker. I said mover and shaker. So that their findings are to be taken seriously. The study also reported a growing trend. That is, 49% of organisations use tests for selection and development, are also assessing work values. Now, this is heartening to know that good values fit. That is, aligning prospective employees with organisational values. So making sure that there is a shared value base, and that'll lead to engagement and satisfaction, which will in turn lead to reduced staff turnover, thereby increasing productivity. When there's a good fit between the employees and organisation values, employees are far more likely to be satisfied, to identify with the organisation more strongly, and stay with the organisation longer. They're more likely to be highly energised and to put in more. Their discretionary effort will be higher. Values are deeply held beliefs or standards that guide our behaviour, and they vary in their relative importance to us and the way we evaluate and react to environment. Values act as a criteria for expressing what we believe is right or wrong, good or bad, what should and shouldn't be. Values filter our choices, our likes and dislikes. They reflect how typically we will behave. Values can have a moral or ethical basis, but many values reflect primarily personal rather than moral preferences. Examples of values can be autonomy, striving towards challenging goals, behaving professionally, doing one's duty, or having a pleasant lifestyle, or even looking good.
Michael, I certainly agree with you there. I think your values are the things that you believe are important in a way that you live and work. For me, they determine my priorities and they help me know if I'm in the right job and on the right career path. I think they also help us to help tell us if our life is turning out the way we want it to. I've noticed that when the things that you do and the way you behave match your values, life is usually good. I usually feel satisfied and content. But when they don't align, when things don't align with my values, I know straight away, things feel wrong and I get stressed and unhappy. For example, if you value health and fitness, but you have to work 70 hours a week in your job, well, you'll probably feel internal stress and conflict because you can't spend any energy in that area of your life. You don't have the time nor the inclination. It's probably the first thing to go out the door. And if you don't value competition, but you work in a highly competitive sales environment, well, then you're not likely to be very satisfied with your job, are you? So I can really resonate with matching personal values with organisational values, and I can see why organisations need to make an effort to get this right.
Yeah, Sarah, well, thank you very much for that personal touch too. Look, it's just so critical for organisations to proactively address this. Without the shared values as a base, there's little or no hope of you having high or even moderate employee engagement. So, look, in recruiting, there are two key things to look for. You've got to look in the candidate, their can-do skills, and I think more importantly, their will-do skills. Can-do skills include skills, knowledge, ability, experience, etc. to do the job, and will-do skills include attitude, that they actually want to do the job. There's an old saying, but no adage this week, Sarah. We can't slip an adage in there. Recruit for attitude, train for skills. And that's exactly what we need to be doing here.
So, Michael, have you got some insights into what to look for in recruiting for values and those will-do skills?
Sarah, there are two things in the recruiting phase which I'd suggest recruiters try to get a very good picture of when selecting prospective employees. Firstly, their values, and then secondly, their personality.
And I'm going to ask you, Michael, what are babes?
I didn't see that question coming, sir. Now, the concept of babes originated with Jeffrey Clausen back in the 1980s. Babes are a person's values, their assumptions, aspirations, ambitions, their abilities and attributes and attitudes, their beliefs and behaviours, their expectations, experiences, ethics, emotional maturity and empathy. Babes are one of the four dimensions that make us unique. Our physical being, our intellect, our emotion and our soul are babes. These characteristics also apply to both, as well as to individuals, but also to organisations. The functionality versus the dysfunctionality of our babes has a massive impact on our life. And the same is true of organisations, where the babes of the dominant alphas set the functionality of the culture. There are two things to look for in personality. Now, there's a DDI study that found personal characteristics which are closely linked to engagement. Now, the first one there is adaptability, demonstrating openness to new ideas and experience, readily modifying work approaches in response to change. Achievement orientation, pushing themselves through a continual cycle of setting goals, reaching them, and setting progressively more challenging goals. Attraction to the work, maintaining a positive view of their job despite periods of stress and frustration. Emotional maturity, avoiding impulsive reactions and extreme or sustained emotional reactions which would negatively impact on work effectiveness and co-workers. Positive disposition, demonstrating agreeableness with customers and peers, eagerness to help, and helping others to achieve their goals. And self-efficacy, looking after yourself, exhibiting secure, unyielding confidence in your ability to succeed in the job and to advance beyond their current position. The takeaway lesson here is that if you want an engaged workforce, then it's important to recruit these character types and the VABEs into your organisation and to manage them accordingly and appropriately.
Okay, so our third agenda topic for today is job satisfaction and engagement. Do these go hand in hand, Michael?
Sarah, very, very much so. Now, if you can call up our spreadsheet, we'll have a look at that. Okay. Sarah, I'll ask 5 questions. This is a very, very simple but profound tool. So, first of all, we're going to have a look over here at level of job skills, and we'll say that's a 4. And then we'll say the task role, and we'll again 4 out of 7, that's not bad. Then we'll say the worth, that's not bad again, we'll say that's a 4. Then we'll go to this and we'll say control. You can see that. Do you have much control over your planning and workload? We'll say out of 7, that's a 4. And then feedback. Do we receive much feedback from our work? Again, that's a 4. And so we've got our total satisfaction score there of 64%. So it doesn't look too bad, does it? So if we have a look out there, the total percentage score, however, that's potential there, is 347. So the person with these average 4 scores is really going at about 18.65% of their potential job satisfaction. Now that's hardly going to thrill you in your job, is it? Do you really want to do that for 40 years you'll be working? Not a great prospect, and hardly one to get you out of bed on a frosty July morning just to trudge off to another day of drudgery. It's important to realise when we look at that the first 3 issues were about how the job was designed, but the last 2, the multiplier factors, were about how well the job was managed, hence the importance of the way we manage people for engagement.
Michael, what can we do to improve job satisfaction?
Well, first off, you need to start with how the job was designed. You need to make it meaningful and try to use all the person's skills. It's very important to let people have clear line of sight to the significance of their role and its outcome. So how does their job help? How does the job help their organisation to be successful? You really need to make an effort to fit the job to the person rather than the person to the job. Now, second one, improve the way you're managing them. Remember, they're adults, so demand that they act like adults, giving them the freedom and authority to do the job their way. Let them have some freedom and autonomy to make decisions and plan their day as they see best. Clear roles, responsibilities, outcomes, accountabilities are all important here. You need to stop micromanaging and let your people do their job. And don't forget the topic of last week's webinar, feedback, feedback, feedback. People thrive on feedback. They get dispirited in silence. They need to know that their work is noticed and appreciated.
Yes, that all makes lots of sense, Michael. If you get the right match with the right people in the right jobs and then give them the space and encouragement to get the job done in their way, well, then you'll have not only satisfied and happy employees, but you'll also have engaged employees, yeah?
Yep.
Now we know how to engage our people, but what about those employees who are neither here nor there? They do their job well, but you know their heart's not in it, and they could do much better if they wanted to. Have you got anything for us on how to handle these people? So how to improve engagement? Any strategies?
Yes, Sarah, we can do that. Look, to encourage engagement rather than merely having satisfied employees, you need to provide challenges for them. For example, higher work standards, some demanding goals, managerial responsibilities, to provide opportunities for innovation in their roles, career development opportunities, and succession planning for them. Blessington White, in their report, recommended the following. Organisations can gain a firm grasp on engagement, and they can then drive their business results in very specific terms and can adopt a common definition of engagement which makes it something tangible to business outcomes. Senior leaders renew their efforts to provide alignment to the business strategy by increasing communication and clarity, as well as providing an inspiring vision of the future. Engagement initiatives focusing on equipping every level of the workforce, clarifying who is accountable for what and how best to contribute to a culture of employee engagement. Developing focuses on career as a way of aligning long-term employee aspirations with the organisation's talent needs for tomorrow, and that managers address disengagement decisively without letting the disengaged monopolise their efforts. Now, when it came to strategies to improve engagement, Towers Watson suggested the following ways that leaders can improve employee engagement. The first one here is leaders. Get to know them by developing workforce insights, benchmark, to understand gaps and then to understand what motivates, attracts, energises and retains employees and teams. Help employees to grow by equipping them with relevant skills and knowledge for now and into the future, providing them with short and long-term opportunities to improve their skills capabilities, to foster a culture of ongoing learning. Involve employees by keeping them informed of what's going on and creating line of sight. Empower them to act, seek their feedback from personal contact and create opportunities to feel as if they're valued contributors through collaboration. Reward employees properly by knowing what rewards mean the most, appropriate, and recognise their achievements. Properly reward the benefits in terms of benefits and pay. Continue to get the basics right. Competitive and clearly articulated base pay and benefits, but also don't underestimate the positive impact of managed recognition of good performance in their team. To inspire employees by building a sense of pride through emotional connection, living values, customer service relationships and reputation. Instill a culture of respect and sincere care for the well-being and ensure the leadership team communicates clearly. Okay, the next is career development. Respond to career needs of talented people, especially as external opportunities to advance or increasingly arise. Offer clear career goals and strong development-orientated performance management. Create a culture of culturing and mentoring to sustain the development of talent. Clearly articulate and differentiate the employee deal that you're offering. And finally, employee well-being. Acknowledge the increased pressure of financial crisis places on employees. High growth, high job uncertainty and greater job demands uncertainty that we're experiencing now can affect well-being. Engender feelings of well-being amongst employees by giving them the opportunities and support for career development. Ensuring immediate managers create a supportive work environment, recognising achievements, fostering collaboration and a sense of belonging, and take steps to keep their employees from feeling of being overwhelmed.
Well, that's great, Michael. There's certainly lots of things to think of there, especially, we might not think about acknowledging the increased pressure that we're feeling, and if there is a lot of negativity around the office, people pick up on that. So it's important to acknowledge that that is a true and real thing that's happening there. So I might move to our final section of our agenda here and open the floor up to your questions. We've had some terrific questions coming through while we've been chatting. So the first one here is, when you say that new employee values need to match up with the organisation's values, how can you tell what these are?
Well, the starting point, Sarah, is first of all to the organisation to draw up a list of what its values are, what it's looking for. Then the second point there is to, in the interviewing process, etc., assess the employee's attitudes, vibes against those values. This should also become evident during the probationary period. Now, if there's a mismatch during the probationary period, that's the time to redress it.
Okay, here's a tricky one for you. I'm not sure that I agree with you about giving employees more job autonomy and letting them go. I recently had a young admin person who seemed, at least initially, quite bright and did what you said, and then we let him get on with it with lots of encouragement. But then I found a whole lot of work I thought he'd finish stacked in the cupboard. But he didn't tell me he had any problems or give me any ideas he was even falling behind, let alone not coping. How does this figure?
That's one to consider, isn't it?
Yeah.
Right, there's two things in there. I think one has to inspect, particularly to see that the encouragement's working, but I think there's a more deep-seated issue that you've raised here. It's two things. It's about the person's capacity in relation to their job, and secondly about why they felt uncomfortable to tell you that they weren't coping. Now, I don't have immediate answers to those, but they'll be the things that I'd be looking for.
Okay, there seems to be a lot of emphasis on career development as a tool for getting employees motivated and engaged, but what about those people in jobs where there is just no career pathway and no opportunity other than the job they're currently in? I know of one person who is really good at her job but is getting restless, and we can't afford to lose her, but there is no way I can talk career planning, at least in my business, with her. What do I do?
Sadly, Sarah, in the longer term, it's highly likely that the person will seek career development elsewhere. But also important, the retention strategy that I would be using at the moment is relationships. Building a highly, highly effective relationship with her, where the person valued the relationship more than the immediate career benefits elsewhere or the money elsewhere.
Okay, I am aware we've run slightly over time. I'm just going to ask one more, Michael. You mentioned personality as an indicator of a fit with a job and or organisation. We use the MBTI indicator at my work. Is it worth using this in the selection screening process during recruitment? And if so, then what would I look for?
Sarah, yes, there are plenty of aptitude and personality tests around. MBTI, Myers-Briggs, has been around for a very long time. Are they worth using? Yes, recruiters would say that they were, but we have to remember that recruiting has a 40+% failure rate. So we, in looking at this, don't rely entirely on the survey tools that you're using. You also have to have very, very good interview techniques in uncovering what the person is truly about.
Excellent. Thank you, Michael. And we have run out of time. If you didn't get a question answered, please send it through to me. In fact, we've run over time. I'm glad this webinar wasn't on time management, Michael. Thanks for today. Thanks for joining me, Michael, and thanks for all of you in there joining us today for our 8th webinar. I do hope you've enjoyed it. And have a better understanding of the importance of employee engagement and perhaps have some strategies to take away with you. As usual, if you have any ideas, issues, topics that you would like us to turn into a webinar, we only have 2 left in this first series, please do let us know. Our contact details are on the screen now. You can visit our website, send us through an email, give us a call, like us on Facebook, and don't forget to head to our very own Cal YouTube channel. You can watch this video and the previous 7. And we hope you can join us again next week. In the meantime, I hope you have a lovely weekend.
It's goodbye from me, Michael, and I'd also like to thank Rod Wagner for his appearance.
Thanks, Michael. Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, Sarah.
See you next time.